trust God even when life changes. Life doesn't always play by your game plan. One day, you're on top of the scoreboard. The next day, the whole arena feels like it's against you. Change doesn't knock politely, it walks in, flips the table, and dares you to keep playing. But here's the truth. God's court doesn't change. His game plan is bigger than your moment, and his timing is sharper than any buzzer beater you could ever dream of. When the season of your life shifts, you have two choices: panic and bench yourself, or lace up, look up, and trust the coach who never loses. You don't need to see the whole playbook. You just need to run the play God gives you today. Every championship starts with trust. Trust in the process, trust in the training, trust in the one who designed the game. Life's changes are not interruptions, they're transitions to the next quarter. Every tough season you face isn't a dead end, it's an alley-oop God setting up for you. When doors close, when people leave, when the score looks bad, stay in the game. God isn't worried about your scoreboard, he's focused on your growth. And the thing about change is, it doesn't break you when you're grounded in the one who never changes. You don't trust God because life makes sense, you trust him because he's been undefeated since eternity began. You trust him because every setback is just a setup. You trust him because storms don't last, but his promises do. Life will test you. It will force you into moments where the shot clock's running down, and all you can do is take the leap. That's when faith isn't just an idea, it's your jump shot under pressure. You aim, you release, and you trust that God's got the rebound, no matter what. The greatest victories in life come when you stop trying to control every pass and start believing that the God who brought you to the court will get you through the game. So whatever changes you're facing, whether it's a loss, a new chapter, or an unexpected twist, trust him. Not because it's easy, not because you can see the ending, but because his record is perfect and his game plan always wins. Life's game plan will change, God's doesn't. Life is not a straight line. It's not a smooth court with perfect lighting and no obstacles. One moment, you're running the fast break. The crowd's behind you, momentum is yours. The next moment, the lights flicker, the momentum shifts, and you feel like the whole arena has turned cold. That's change, it comes without warning. The mistake most people make is thinking the game is supposed to stay the same. They think the environment, the people, the pace will always be predictable. But the truth is, the game keeps changing. Opponents switch strategies. Conditions get tougher. The ball doesn't bounce the way you expect. When life changes, your instinct might be to panic, to question everything. But here's where true greatness is born. You remember that the one who designed the game has not changed. His vision for you, his purpose for you, his promise to you still locked in. The scoreboard may look different. The faces around you may change. But the coach in the sky, he's calling the same plays he's always called for you, the ones that lead to victory if you keep running them with faith. Think about it. If the game plan could change every time life got rough, there'd be no point in training. But that's not how it works. The same principles of discipline, trust, and perseverance apply in every season. That's the difference between players who crumble and players who rise. The ones who rise know the foundation is steady, even if the surface is shaking. They know the system is perfect, even if the moment is chaotic. Life will switch courts on you mid-game. One day you're in the championship arena, the next you're in a street game with no refs and no rules. But the plays you've been given still work. You still know where to stand, when to move, and when to shoot. You can't control when the wind changes, but you can control whether you keep your eyes on the real source of your direction. The same God who called you to this game is the same God who will carry you through it. When the pressure mounts, you don't reinvent everything. You don't abandon what works. You stick to the plan because the plan comes from the one who's already seen the end of the game. Change isn't your enemy, it's the defense testing your resolve. Every new obstacle is just another way to prove the plan still works. You don't fear it, you adjust, but you never abandon the strategy. The players who thrive are the ones who understand the game's flow is unpredictable, but the foundation is unshakable. The arena can go dark, the crowd can go silent, but you're still moving according to the voice you trust most. You keep running the plays you were given in the off-season, the quiet hours of prayer, the discipline of preparation, the mental toughness built in solitude. Those things don't change just because the setting does. Life will throw curveballs, but when your trust is in the one who wrote the rules, you never feel lost. You know you're still in the right position, even if the whole court shifts beneath your feet. That's why you can stand tall in chaos, because you know the playbook hasn't been rewritten. The author hasn't lost his touch, and no amount of sudden change can erase the fact that his strategy always wins. Don't bench yourself when change hits. When change hits, most people freeze. They sit down, they wait for everything to make sense before they move again. But that's the quickest way to lose momentum. You can't win a game from the bench when you're supposed to be on the court. The moment life shifts, the temptation is to say, "I'll wait until things calm down, then I'll get back in." But life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't pause while you catch your breath. The game keeps going, whether you're moving or not. Greatness demands that you stay in the game even when you feel uncomfortable, even when you don't know the next play, even when the floor beneath you feels different than it did yesterday. You keep moving. Every time you bench yourself in a hard moment, you give fear more time to grow. You give doubt more space to whisper. You let hesitation steal your position. And by the time you try to step back in, the rhythm is gone. Change isn't a signal to retreat, it's a signal to dig deeper, to test yourself, to see if your trust is stronger than your circumstances. This is when you learn whether you play for comfort or for destiny. You don't need the perfect conditions to keep going. You don't need everything to be in your control. What you need is the willingness to keep showing up and keep running the plays, even when you can't predict the outcome. Think about it. The game is never won by someone who avoids pressure. It's won by the one who stays in when the pressure hits hardest, the one who takes the shot when everyone else is scared to even hold the ball. When life changes, you have to trust that you're still built for this moment. You've trained for storms, you've prepared for shifts, you've been conditioned for uncertainty. That's why you can't afford to take yourself out. There's a big difference between being taken out of the game and taking yourself out. Life may throw you off balance, but don't hand over your spot. Don't remove yourself from the fight God placed you in. Sometimes the biggest act of trust you can show is staying present, not quitting when your feelings tell you to, not running when fear tells you you're about to fail. The enemy's job is to convince you that because the game looks different, you don't belong in it anymore. But if God put you on this court, He's not done with you. He's not asking you to bench yourself until things are perfect. Stay on the court long enough, and the momentum will shift again. The same people who doubted you will be watching you take over. The same situation that scared you will be the very place you find your strength. Change is temporary, but your purpose is permanent. Don't let a temporary shift make you forget the reason you started playing in the first place. You belong in the game no matter what the score says, no matter how the court feels. You stay there until the final whistle, because that's where victories are made. You don't need to see the whole playbook. Trust the play God gives you today. One of the biggest mistakes players make is thinking they need to see the whole season's strategy before they take the first step. They want every answer, every path, every certainty laid out before they move. That's not how champions operate. You'll never get the entire playbook all at once, not because it's hidden from you, but because you're not supposed to live in the future. You're supposed to execute the play in front of you, one possession at a time, one day at a time. Think about it, the coach doesn't shout out the whole season's plan during the first timeout. He calls the play you need for this moment. And if you execute it well, the next one comes, step by step, play by play. The problem is, fear makes you want the whole plan up front. You're scared of the unknown, so you demand the big picture before you move. But trust isn't trust if you have all the details. Trust is moving forward without needing the scoreboard to tell you how it ends. Every great comeback starts with one possession done right. You focus on that, and before you know it, you're right back in the game. But if you waste your time asking for the whole future, you lose the present moment you've been given. The truth is, you're not ready for the whole playbook yet. You think you are, but part of the reason you get it piece by piece is because the preparation happens in motion. The lesson comes during the run, not before it. When you trust the play you're given today, you build the muscle memory for the next one. The repetition of faith is what gives you confidence under pressure. Some players freeze because they don't understand how this one small move will lead to victory. But when the coach calls it, it's not your job to overthink it, it's your job to run it with full intensity. You might not understand why you're running the ball instead of shooting. You might not understand why the pass feels risky. But when the play is from the one who sees the whole court from above, you run it with everything you've got. You're not responsible for the whole game, just the possession in front of you. You don't need to know how the third quarter ends before you take the first shot of the first quarter. That's why trust is so powerful. It frees you from the paralysis of overthinking. You stop trying to control every outcome and start focusing on executing today's instructions. The players who win are the ones who say, "I don't need the whole book, just give me the next page." They don't stall. They don't second guess. They run the play like it's the game. Winner every single time. One day you'll look back and see how every single play you trusted led to the championship. But until then, you keep showing up, running hard and trusting the call. Victory isn't in knowing every step, it's in moving with conviction in the step you're on right now. Every setback is just an alley-oop in disguise. Setbacks are part of the game. You can't play without them. You miss shots. You get blocked. You lose possessions you thought were yours. That's not the end, that's the setup. Most people see a setback as the moment to hang their heads. Winners see it as the moment to position themselves for the next big play. An alley-oop doesn't look like a victory when it starts. It looks like a pass that's way too high, way off target. To the untrained eye, it looks like a mistake. But to the one who's ready, it's the perfect opportunity to rise higher than the defense ever expected. Life works the same way. That delay, that loss, that unexpected closed door, it feels like you're losing ground. But what if it's just God tossing you the kind of setup that requires you to jump higher, stretch farther, and trust harder than ever before? The thing about an alley-oop is you can't see it coming unless you're already looking for it. You can't be slouched over, focused on your mistake. You've got to keep your eyes up, ready to leap the second it comes your way. Most people miss the blessing in the setback because they're too busy complaining about the pass. They forget the pass isn't the point, the finish is. The beauty is in catching it mid-air and slamming it down with authority. When you face a setback, you have two choices. See it as the end of your chance, or see it as the beginning of your moment. The ones who make history choose the second option every single time. Some of your greatest highlights will come from plays that started ugly. A dropped opportunity, a rejection, a delay, and then suddenly, everything shifts because you stayed ready for the leap. You don't get alley-oops if you're afraid to jump. You don't get break through moments if you refuse to move after failure. If you want the big finish, you've got to stay in motion even when it feels like you're losing. Here's the truth. God doesn't waste passes. If he lets the ball come your way, even in the weirdest form, there's a reason. He's setting you up for something bigger than you could have done on your own. You can't control the timing or the angle of the pass, but you can control whether you're ready to catch it. That's where faith comes in, being ready before the opportunity even shows up. Setbacks train your eyes to look for openings others don't see. They teach you to trust the unseen. They remind you that just because the moment looks messy doesn't mean the outcome can't be beautiful. When you live with that mindset, you start expecting good things out of bad moments. You start playing with confidence, even when you're down, because you know this could be the setup for the play that changes everything. Every time you recover from a setback, your opponents get more nervous. They realize you can't be rattled. They see that you don't need perfect conditions to make something spectacular happen. And when the moment comes when that high pass drops in, and you rise up to meet it, you'll understand why the setback had to happen. It wasn't holding you back. It was lifting you higher. Scoreboards change, but God's promises are permanent. The scoreboard is a liar if you let it control your belief. It's just numbers on a wall. It tells you where you are right now, not where you'll finish. Too many players let a bad score crush their spirit before the game is even over. In life, the scoreboard can be your bank account, your career position, your relationships, your health. You look at it and think, I'm losing, but you forget the numbers change. What doesn't change is the promise God made over your life. A scoreboard only measures the visible. God's promise covers the invisible, the things working in your favor that no one sees yet. The crowd might count you out, but the one who called you in hasn't changed his mind. When you trust the scoreboard more than God's word, you play desperate. You rush shots. You force plays. You let fear dictate your every move. That's when you start losing, not because the score is bad, but because your faith is gone. The best players know you can be down 20 points and still take over the game if you keep your head in it. You don't stop executing just because you're behind. You don't stop believing because the numbers look ugly. In life, the score can shift in one play. One opportunity, one phone call, one breakthrough, and everything changes. But that only happens if you keep showing up like you're still in the fight. When you anchor yourself to God's promise, you're not shaken by temporary numbers. You know they'll move. They always move. But the word over your life is immovable, unshakable, permanent. That's why some people can stand tall when they're broke, when they're rejected, when they're struggling because they know the scoreboard isn't the final word. The final word comes from the one who already declared victory over them. Every season has cold starts, bad quarters, and rough stretches, but champions don't let the score write their story. They let their belief and their execution do that. If you want to live above the scoreboard, you have to train your mind to see beyond the now. You've got to believe in the unseen more than the seen. That's the kind of vision that turns impossible games into comebacks. The enemy will use the scoreboard to intimidate you. He'll try to make you believe that what you see is the truth. But faith isn't built on what you see, it's built on what you know deep in your spirit. You might not be able to flip the scoreboard instantly, but you can flip your mindset instantly. And the moment you do, your game changes, your energy changes, the whole momentum shifts in your favor. When God says you're going to win, it doesn't matter if the scoreboard says you're losing. That's just the middle of the story, not the end. The scoreboard is temporary. The promise is eternal. And the player who trusts the eternal over the temporary will always walk off the court a winner. Faith under pressure is your winning jump shot. Pressure is the great equalizer. It exposes the unprepared and elevates the ready. You can be the most skilled player in the world, but if you crumble under pressure, you won't last in the big moments. Faith works the same way. Anybody can believe when the game is easy, when life is smooth, when every shot is falling. But real faith shows up when the clock is ticking down, the defense is tight, and everything inside you screams, "This is impossible." Your winning jump shot isn't your talent, your hustle, or your strategy, it's your faith. Because faith lets you take the shot even when the odds are stacked against you. Faith gives you the confidence to rise up when the world expects you to fold. Pressure makes people tighten up. It makes them second guess. But faith loosens your grip on fear. It reminds you that you're not shooting alone, there's a greater power guiding your release. The great moments, the ones that define your career, your life, your legacy, they always come with pressure. You can't separate the two. The question is, will you let the pressure make you timid, or will you let faith push you forward? Faith doesn't promise the shot will always go in, it promises you'll never regret taking it. Because in the kingdom of God, obedience is the win, and the results are in His hands. When you've trained in faith, you don't shy away from the ball when the game's on the line. You want it. You live for it. Because you know these are the moments that change everything. Without faith, you'll play scared. You'll pass the opportunity to someone else. You'll let the fear of missing keep you from even trying. But with faith, you'll step into the moment knowing that whatever happens, God is still in control. Pressure will make you aware of every weakness you have. That's why you need faith not as a backup plan, but as your first weapon. When fear says, "What if you fail?" faith says, "What if God comes through?" The more you practice trusting God in small pressures, the more prepared you'll be for the big ones. Faith is like muscle memory. You don't think about it. You just act on it when it's time. Some of the greatest shots in life won't make sense until after you take them. People might think you're reckless, but they don't understand that your aim isn't based on sight, it's based on trust. In the end, the difference between the one who wins and the one who freezes isn't talent, it's who can keep believing under pressure. When the game's on the line, your nerves will try to take over. That's when you slow down, breathe, and remember who gave you the ball in the first place. The clock may be running out, the crowd may be screaming, the defense may be suffocating, but if your faith is strong, you'll rise, release, and watch the impossible turn into victory. God's record is perfect. Trust His game plan until the final buzzer. Every player who's ever won knows this. You don't stop playing just because you're tired, frustrated, or confused. You play until the final buzzer. You give everything you've got until the clock hits zero. That's how you respect the game and in life. That's how you respect the one who called you to it. God's record is flawless. Not once in the history of eternity has He failed to keep His promise. Not once has His plan fallen short. But the challenge is, you only see the full victory when you stay in until the end. Too many people quit before the last possession. When you trust a perfect record, you play differently. You're not shaken by temporary setbacks because you know the outcome is already in your favor. You don't panic when the other side scores, you keep running the plays, knowing your side always wins in the end. The problem is, people want quick victories. They want the championship in the first quarter. But that's not how it works. The most legendary wins are forged in the moments when it looks like all hope is gone and then the plan kicks in. If you leave the court too soon, you'll never see the turnaround. You'll never know how close you were to the win. You'll walk away thinking you lost when in reality, the victory was just one play away. Trusting until the final buzzer means fighting when you're out of breath. It means believing when nothing around you says you should. It means holding on when the weight of life is trying to push you to the sideline. The truth is, every second counts. The last 5 minutes can change everything. In fact, some of God's greatest victories come right at the end when the enemy thinks it's over, and suddenly the momentum flips. When you've got a perfect coach with a perfect record, your job isn't to question every call. Your job is to run the plan with everything you've got until time runs out. Trusting the game plan doesn't mean it will always feel good. Sometimes it will feel like you're running uphill against a wall. But even then, the wall is part of the strategy. It's shaping you for the win. The final buzzer moments are where champions are made. That's when your preparation meets your faith. That's when your endurance proves itself. That's when you see what you're really made of. If you stop short, you'll always wonder, what if? But if you push through, you'll see the victory with your own eyes, and you'll know without a doubt that God never lost, never will, and never can. When the clock's winding down, you don't relax. You press harder. You lean into your trust. You tell yourself, if his record is perfect, then this play is part of the win even if I can't see it yet. The game might be fierce, the fight might be exhausting, but the outcome is secure. That's what happens when you play for a team that has never known defeat. So you keep going, you keep trusting. You keep playing until the sound of that final buzzer, because that's when the whole arena will see what you already knew. The plan worked, the promise held, and the victory was yours all along. At the end of the day, life isn't about whether the court changes, the crowd changes, or the scoreboard changes. It's about whether you stayed in the game and trusted the plan until the very last second. You're not here by accident. You're not still standing because you're lucky. You're still here because you were built for this fight. You were chosen for this court, and every season, every challenge, every shift in momentum has been shaping you for a win that will shut down every doubt you've ever had. Change will come. Setbacks will come. Pressure will come. But none of it changes the truth: the God you serve is undefeated. His game plan is flawless. And if you keep showing up, keep running the plays, keep trusting when it's hard, you will walk off this court in victory. One day you'll look back and realize every delay was a setup. Every loss was a lesson. Every closed door was protection. And every moment you thought you were falling apart was actually the moment God was building you stronger. So lace up, keep your head up, keep your faith strong. The game isn't over. The clock is still running, and as long as you've got breath, you've got plays left to run. Because when you trust God through every change, every season, and every storm, you don't just win. You win big. You win permanently. You win for eternity.